Hello. So, this is coming up another deck tech for kind of the changes I made to the poison deck since first starting testing. Thank you so much to everyone who's been playing against me. I've gotten to play against a variety of decks, um, and I don't know how interesting it is to play against the same control deck over and over. So I thank you guys who have bared with me and while I've tested this deck. Um, Basically, this is the deck I'm going to be playing at the tournament today, and then I'll post it. It's interesting style because it is single elimination best of three. So I just loaded up a little bit more in the sideboard anti-aggro by adding a couple more Divrail's Witherings, and these three Feed of the Swarms I think are a real conceit to aggro. Even though it seems weird to cite in a card that causes you to lose life, but the aggro decks I'm afraid of are the ones that are throwing down 1 and 2 mana cards, and so you're losing 1 or 2 life to remove their creature that is probably larger than that. So this is the changes. So I've dumped the sideboard plan of having the serpents, the Tolarian Terrors. It was good against that mono green deck as far as stalling the game, but I think it's people can keep in a couple of removal spells to make it so it's not as good. And it's not like the be-all, end-all. It just stalls them. Rather than what I'm planning to do now is just remove the creatures I'm worried about rather than stall out the board. I don't know if this is better or worse. One thing that this is slightly more interesting is that because the terrors really work well if you just cite into all of them, you're using at least 4 sideboard slots, and then generally a 5th sideboard slot is the spell to give them lifelink to recur that, and so you can be attacking in with them and growing them at instant speed. So it's a big sideboard switch over that it wasn't like the absolute game ender that I thought it might be. Instead, I just get to play more removal spells. This is the main deck. The other big changes, I stopped playing the lesson cards, or the learn card with the lesson plan in the sideboard. Basically, I think I was just thinking it was more flexible than it turned out being. I kept cutting more and more of the lessons in the sideboard because I was like, oh, I'm never going to grab this one. I'm never going to grab this one. I'm never going to grab this one. And then pretty soon it was just the experimental, what is it called? Anyway, the one that finds a basic land in your deck and gains you 2 life. And so basically it was 4 mana, make a 1/1, and then gain 2 life and find a basic land. So it wasn't it was a reasonable card, but compared to all of these other cards I think are much stronger, and so I think switching to this plan is the way that you want to go. So basically my hopes for having that lesson, the one that makes the 1/1, is that it would be a relevant chump, so you get a life from that thing, as well as you get a couple life from the thing. And then I was thinking that you could have a couple options in the sideboard, and really I had just reduced it down so much that I was like, no, I'm never drawing that one. I'm never drawing that one. So now for the life gain, it's basically Tendrils of Corruption. So one thing that was pointed out by multiple people, but I think it was Cardboard who brought it up first, was I had too many fetch lands for how many basic lands they could find. Even though the fetch lands themselves can give me 1 life, I reduced those and then increased my basic lands. And then I decided to increase the swamps, again, to help turn on the tendrils. So as long as I have 3 total island cards between these 3, then I know my future Mystic Sanctuaries are turned on. So then after that, I just search up all the swamps to try to upgrade the Tendrils of Corruption to be removes bigger creatures and gains more life. But again, it's a 4-mana spell that is easily countered by the hexproof spells from white and green, so you don't want to rely on it too much. It's really what you need against the red-black burn or the mono-red burn decks, where they have that reach that really scares you, because creature-based, you would just be focusing on removing their creatures, but what really scares you is they get in a couple damage with the creatures, you finally remove them, and then they just get you low enough where they can burn you with direct damage instead of playing creatures to the board, which you really only have the answer is your counter spell. So, and I guess dispel, but most of the direct burn nowadays is sorceries. So dispel actually doesn't help as much as you would think against burn. It's reasonable. There's enough important cards, like I was mentioning, the white and green hexproof protection spells. You absolutely need to counter those. It's almost to the point, because they both main deck those protection spells, that you have to tendrils on 5, which actually doesn't matter for this deck, because waiting another turn to tendrils means that you probably have more swamps in play. But you really need to, just get blown out if they have the protection spell that turn. So I found that I've really had to delay my tendrils until I can make sure that it resolves. So it also makes it worse. The Mogis is my answer. So Suffocating Fumes it just takes, a 3-mana card for how surprising it is. It's just too slow for 1/1s. By then they're either bigger than 1/1s, so they've grown in some fashion by putting enchantments or putting equipment or putting counters on them, and so really you just need something, a 1-mana spell, like to kill an elf, to kill a 1/1 flyer from mono white before they load it up with the enchantments. So, and then what's nice about this one is if they happen to get off the enchantment that makes the 1/1, you can kill the 1/1 with the Mogis, and then your Innocent Blunt is working. So completely creatureless. No way to even make creatures in the main or the board now. So all of these efficient counter spells, which I had before, although it looks nicer now that I don't have lessons plans that I have to put in the sideboard. And then the one of Vraska's Fall, again, I think Innocent Blood is actually the better Vraska's Fall. And so just being 1 mana, and then Sorcery Speed actually does, it not being counterable by Dispel is slightly relevant. And then, like I said, today being best of 1, I'm playing more of these cards to help try to answer. Because again, I think if I can steal a game 1 by not having any creatures in the board, so all of their removal is blank, and then side into a very strong game 2 and 3, I think I have a good chance to advance. We'll see. I know. Being single elimination, it can be just very swingy. I was just looking at the list. It's also open deck list, which is interesting. They seem to be mostly just like creature based, like aggro / like mutate or life gain combos, kind of not combo, synergy type things. Which I think these removal spells line up good against those kind of plans. I was testing against Owl X, and he's going to play today, or he's going to try to play today. It'll be interesting because I'm pretty sure he's locked on mono green again, and then so we've both probably learned a little bit more about how to play against each other's deck with these decks by our play testing. These are probably not as good against mono green because he doesn't really play 2 toughness creatures, but these will be reasonable. Being Sorcery Speed is kind of annoying against mono green, but it's reasonable. The only time it kind of hurts you is if you have two of them, because what you could do is wait till your turn, initiate with the Feed a Swarm. When they have the protection spell, then you use the Anoint to finish off the creature. But if you have two Feed the Swarms, then you're in trouble, because then you cast one, they protect it, and then you can't cast the other one because by then it has hexproof. And then the conceit to the green-black mid-range deck, I was complaining like the whole game that I need more counters. I definitely would play more Distinguished Strokes and less of these if it was not single limb. But being single limb, I'm really, really concerned with aggro, and so I'm overweighting my sideboard anti-aggro package versus this mid-range, because I think his mid-range deck is probably, or if someone brought, I don't know if he's actually playing, but if someone brought a similar type mid-range deck, I think it would really, really struggle against the aggro decks, because their creatures are actually big enough to just attack through those 3/3s and 4/4s by the time that you bring down the 4/4s, and the fact that it takes so long to bring down the 4/4s. So I think those mid-range decks are going to get forced out of the format of being best of one. Or not best of one, single elimination, even though it's best of three. And then all that's going to be left is control decks and aggro decks. And so I think my deck lines up against both of those pretty well. We had that mirror initially against Endless where he was using the old style control decks, and they just fold to this. So, and unless anyone's gone through and opened all of these cards, I was really focusing on when I was doing my all will be one drafts. I literally forced blue back the whole time to make sure that these cards would be open and get passed to me. And so I actually got all of these cards except one Anoint. I had to craft the one Anoint by forcing it, and after 3 drafts I got them all. So 3 drafts, and then I think I went like 5-2, 4-3, or I guess it would 5-3, 4-3, and then I only won like 2 games, one other match. So I kind of sacrificed my draft record by forcing mono blue and not paying attention to open seal. And I think I was like taking these like above good uncommons in my colors, just to, again, guarantee that I got them and didn't have to spend my precious wild cards. All right. Well, I've talked a lot. Hopefully I have a good showing with this deck. This will be the first kind of long form tournament that this deck was in, and hopefully it gets to close to the end, so then more people pay attention to it. I think it's going to be a solid contender in the meta, and so I hope to represent it well. Oh, and one last comment: Obscure Storefront, just the direct upgrade compared to the Grixis one, because the sound cue for the Grixis one takes so long. It's so annoying. Where this one actually doesn't have that issue, but literally they're equivalent in this deck. All right.